Hello, how you doing? Welcome to this webinar on behalf of the TEFL org. My name is Carl. I'm a teacher trainer. I'm an online EFL teacher. I'm an English examiner. I've been lucky enough to have worked in many places around the world teaching English as a foreign language since about 2005-ish. I've been lucky enough to have worked in Japan, in China, Sri Lanka, Azerbaijan, Iraq, spent a bit of time in Spain and Italy as well, Kazakhstan, don't know if I said that. But I'm based here in Northern Ireland, where I work as a teacher trainer for the TEFL org. And we do these live webinars on a range of different topics every week. They are live, so any comments you do say come up on my screen. As I said, I'm in Belfast. Let us know where you are in the world. It's always good to see where people are tuning in from. We do these on a range of different topics. If you go on our YouTube page, you'll see lots and lots of different ones that we've been doing over the last few years. So if the one that I talk about today doesn't quite answer what you are looking for to know about EFL, perhaps if you go on our YouTube page, you will be able to find the video that does. Today, we are going to be talking about classroom management, basically, and keeping calm in chaotic classrooms. If you've got any experiences about anything that I say today on the PowerPoint that I'm going to go through, please do put that in the chat. If you agree, if you disagree with me, or you want more information, also put that in the chat. Any questions, put them in. I will answer them as quickly as I can when there's a relevant point in my presentation. I can see people saying hello already. Always good to see people saying hello. Thank you. Thank you. I can see some of the regular names there, which is always great to see. I'll get to them in a minute. So keeping calm in chaotic classrooms. So basically today I'm going to be talking about these things here. First of all, we're going to talk a bit about recognizing the common causes, because I think that's important as into why you might have a bit of chaos. Some strategies to stay calm yourself, some tools to try and help you get through the difficult moments, and some ideas for classroom management as well. Right, so first of all, I want to talk a bit about classroom chaos. Now, chaos is quite a strong word, and probably has a bit of negative connotations that comes with it. And you might think, actually, we don't want to know chaos. We don't want chaos in our classroom at all. But I think chaos can take different forms. And I think as a teacher, one of the things that is a bit chaotic that you sort of might get your heart racing a tiny bit is multiple students talking at once. If you ask them a question, you get 3 or 4 shouting words at you, shouting names at you, shouting answers at you. Names at you would be pretty bad unless it's a nice name. Could also be if you set an activity and there's lots of chat over each other, they're talking all at once. That can also feel a little bit chaotic. You can have some technical or logistical issues that causes a bit of chaos. If you've built a lesson that's revolved around a presentation that you want to display on your screen and that doesn't work, can cause quite a bit of chaos in your mind. And, you've got lots of people looking at you, can be a bit chaotic. If you're online and you get a technical issue, again, that can cause you a lot of problems. Unresponsive or over energetic students. So I think that probably when we think of chaos, we sort of got this impression of sort of students just running around and students, maybe fighting, throwing stuff, jumping on each other, that kind of thing. That's really rare. I've never had any sort of issues like that, apart from in some activities when I've wanted a bit of this. But I've never really had that in my 20 years of teaching. Unresponsive, I think, can also feel a bit chaotic in your head, at least. So if you are asking questions or you're hoping to get response from students and you don't get any, or you set a task and they don't respond, that can in your head make you feel a bit chaotic. Also, cultural misunderstandings can cause a bit of classroom chaos as well, in terms of them expecting you to do something or you expecting them to do something and they don't do it. And then finally, some last minute changes. So this can take the forms of sort of students being inserted into your class last minute who you didn't really know that were going to appear. I have had the absolute chaos before of what a school I once worked in. I didn't work there very long because I left, where I was told a week before that I'd be doing a pre-intermediate class, and I had my materials prepared for a pre-intermediate class. I was walking into the pre-intermediate class, and then in the morning of the class, I was told actually it should have been an intermediate class, and they made a mistake. Can I change my lesson today from pre-intermediate to intermediate? I had about 2 hours to plan. You know, chaos in your head. You're sort of going through it all in your head, and you've got to do that kind of thing. So the last minute changes that might come from your managers, the admin staff, that kind of thing can make a big difference. And this is all can cause a bit of chaos. Good to see people saying hello. Hi, David. Hi, Craig. Hi, Charles. Hi, Anna. Hi, Maura as well. Lovely to have people tuning in. Right. So understanding the causes, I think, is quite important when looking at the chaos. It's very important to understand why you might have a bit of chaos. I'm going to talk hopefully a little bit about all the things I spoke about on the screen before. Right. So basically, first of all, so you could have learner-related causes of a bit of chaotic situations. So things like energy levels. So I taught a class in Azerbaijan, which was directly, it was a boys' class because that was a school I was working at. And the class that I took was directly after the students did like wrestling, like the wrestling that you get in Olympic Games. It's a big thing in Azerbaijan. So all of these groups of boys, about 13, had just spent the last sort of hour fighting each other. And then they came into my class and they still had a bit of, they were still a little bit annoyed with each other in cases. There's some strange sort of energy levels. Also, energy levels the other way, where they don't have any energy, that can cause issues as well. Motivation, they don't really enjoy what they're doing. They don't really want to be there, that kind of thing. And also group dynamics. You know, they've had an argument in a different class that you didn't know about. And they used to be really good friends, and they sit down and now they're not good friends, and you're not really sure what's going on. They're a little bit angry with each other maybe at times, or they come and say, I'm not going to work with him. That kind of thing can cause issues. Or, you know, one of them broke up with a girl or something like that. All of this sort of thing can cause issues. And now you don't need to go into detail with each and every single one of them about all of this, but it's good to sort of know, especially energy levels and motivation, if that's causing some problems. Now, chaos can come from yourself if you give unclear instructions, if you give tasks that are a bit complicated for what they've done, or if it's like a complicated task that they've never done before, and you know it's one that you want to do over and over again, you want to get it right this first time, you're telling them how to do it, they're not getting it, that can be quite difficult. And also some of your body language as well, that can also cause a bit of chaos. If you go in there, you maybe had a bad day yourself, you're looking quite negative, you're feeling quite bad, and you've got this really bad body language, that can rub off on them. They can make them feel a little bit angry, can make them feel a bit more stressed. That can then cause a little bit of chaos. So these sort of things are good to be aware of. You can have things that are probably maybe a little bit beyond your control. Things like a class size. If you've got a massive, big class, controlling them all, you spend a lot of your time sort of controlling where they're going to sit, that kind of thing can be quite tricky. The layout of the classrooms, if you've got fixed desks that you can't move around, that kind of thing can be tricky because you can't really change the dynamics. The time of day that you're doing it, any outside noise that they can't hear you. I've taught in places that are quite noisy outside. It's really hot. There's no air conditioning, so you have to open the windows. And also the sort of temperature on that as well. If you've got a really hot class, I remember I once taught in a place in Vietnam, where the air conditioning had broken, and we had windows that didn't open. It was absolutely boiling hot. The students kind of dealt with it, but I couldn't. It was really, really tricky. And then finally, sort of cultural, linguistic. So communication gaps where, you've maybe pitched something a bit too high, or you're pitching something a bit too low, and they are a bit annoyed by this. Also sort of different expectations in terms of what they wanted from the class and what you are willing to do for them in the class can cause a lack of motivation, can cause a little bit of anger. Also, sort of any extra work that you want them to do, or any sort of cultural expectation. Some students want the teacher to be the focus. They don't want to do things like pair work. This kind of thing can cause a bit of issues. Right, so how do you keep the classroom calm? So I think it's important to be aware that the tone of voice that you take and any emotions you show can change the classroom sort of dynamic, can change the sort of classroom tone itself. So I've done observations of teachers where they've asked me to come in because they can't control the class or there's persistent troublemakers. And I've walked in, I've sat there for half an hour, and I've realized pretty soon that the problem is that the teacher isn't being overly friendly, is going in straight in on the defensive, or going in really, really strict because they feel that's how they need to control the class, and that's how they've done it from day one. And also, you know, your emotions, how you talk to them, if you're smiling, if you're happy, you've got to put on this happy sort of face to them. So it's important to know that, and I've heard teachers blame students, whereas most of the problems I think actually come from the teachers. Now, if you do have some sort of problem in the class, you know, you get students maybe arguing, you get students that refusing to sit next to each other, or, you know, worse than that, you get sort of a student talking back to you and things like that. You can respond or you can react. And I think responding is a bit calmer than reacting. So just take a little breath, think about it, even little pause, a little pause between their speaking and you speaking can really get you to gather your thoughts. It can also make them see that they've done something wrong, and that then puts them a bit on the defensive, maybe lowers their emotions. Whereas if you react instantly, you might see something that you regret or something that will make the situation worse. Now, obviously, if there's students in there fighting, you've got to get in there, you've got to react. But if you know, if it's sort of verbal or to each other, you've really got to just sort of take a little breath and go from there. But what I would also say is that sometimes in a classroom, especially with sort of kids' classes, a little bit of controlled chaos can be good. So what do I mean by controlled chaos? If you do an activity where there's a bit of movement and they've got to cross paths, and that, you know, can get them in sort of next to each other and that kind of thing. If you can control it by saying, don't run, walk, you know, go this way, you go that way, that kind of thing, and they'll walk quickly and it'll look a bit chaotic, but actually it's working quite well and it's lifting their energy or burning off some energy. That sort of thing can work pretty well. Micro pauses are really good in lots of different ways. So before giving instructions or between instructions can be good. If a student gives you an answer that you don't like or you sort of disagree with, having a little pause and thinking about it before talking, giving them some feedback. All of this can keep the level of calmness in the class pretty well. It can make them sort of realize that you're changing tone or you're thinking about something that's important, and can get them a bit more aware, can get them to stop what they're doing. Little tiny pauses can really, really help. And also, obviously, model the emotions and the tone that you expect. Don't go in there angry, because they'll come out angry and they'll get angrier during the class. And this might sound simple, but it can be very tricky after you've taught 5 classes in a day to go into a class and do this. Yeah, you know, you might be having a bad day. You might have had a really bad lunch. You might not be feeling very well, that kind of thing. But modeling those emotions and the tone you expect can really, really help. Please, if you've got any more ideas or any questions, please do put them in the chat. They are coming up on my screen already. I can see some. Thank you very much. Right, so some practical strategies. So obviously deep breaths, I think, is important. If you've got quite a mad classroom, and, you know, I've had classes of sort of Spanish teenagers, which can be, you know, a bit machismo. They can, you know, be a little bit like looking at the girls over there, and the girls are sort of chatting away, and, you know, they're looking and they're a bit shy, and there's lots of things on their phone. They're trying to impress each other. Every now and again, they'll throw out a little comment because they think that that's quite funny, that kind of thing. You know, if they say something or something happens and you feel like you're losing the class a little bit, a deep breath can help. Just, no, you don't have to sort of hold it in for 10 seconds, but just before you speak can really, really make a difference. Try, and if they're shouting, you know, lower your voice. Now, I know teachers that hardly ever go above a talking voice at all. If they want to get attention, they use things like a pen and they tap it on a table. They just stand there with their hand raised like that, and then the students sort of stop. Really important that you don't raise your voice more than the level of the students, I think. If there is one that's being quite destructive, you just sit. You don't sit. You sit or stand. It's up to you, and you just look at them like this. That can really, really put them off and make them stop what they're doing. Okay, if they say something that you don't like, a look can really, really make them think, and you'll be surprised how quickly it is that they're the next one to speak. Be calm. Obviously, don't try and get angry with them. If you've got students that are being a bit disruptive verbally or physically, walk slowly and closer to them. Don't run in on them. Just very, very closely walk towards them whilst looking at them. Again, they can sort of realize that something's been doing. They sort of start looking down, they sit down, or that kind of thing. All right. Move close to your students, and then that will help them. Use positive reinforcement right from the start of a lesson. So if you've got a class that tends to get a bit loud, a bit rowdy, and you see a student that is not being loud and rowdy, make sure you tell that student that's not being loud and rowdy that they're doing well, and make sure everyone can hear that. Make sure that you know that who the best ones are in the class for behavior. Because if you just always say the negative things, like don't stop talking, quieten down, that kind of thing. Whereas if you turn that around to, Nicola, you're being nice and quiet and working well today. Or Miguel, Antonio, well done. The two of you, you're working very, very well in pairs, but you're doing this nice and calmly. That kind of thing can help. If you've given instructions and it's gone a bit chaotic, do not be afraid to reset the task. So if you've given them this task and they're not doing at all what you want them to do, just stop. Say, right, okay, everybody sit down. Go back to where you were. Give me back those pieces of paper. I didn't explain that very well. Let's listen again. Make sure that your comments that you are working on, the comments that you're saying, the instructions, are actually making sense. Right. So some of the things that help you to keep calm. Now, if you're going from calm, if you're going from crazy class to crazy class, it's very important that you do try and find a calm place between lessons, probably away from a staff room. Even if you just stand outside for 30 seconds and change your focus, that can make a difference. If you go out of a classroom and you go into a staff room and there's teachers in there that are a little bit annoying, you end up speaking to a teacher that's had a bad hour, that then riles you up even more. If you know that you've got this little run of difficult students, just take time between lessons to have a little break. Have lots of ready to go plan B activities. So make sure that you, if your class is going down this crazy chaotic tangent and you're struggling to get them back with the thing that you're doing, it could be your lesson's too boring. It could be that they just don't find it motivating. It could be it's too difficult for them. Just think, okay, right, do you know what? This lesson isn't working. Right, we're going to stop here. We're going to do an activity that I know you guys all like, and we're going to do it. Now, you don't want to do that every lesson. Sometimes because eventually they'll learn that they can just stop you. They can just stop what they're doing and you'll end up playing a nice game. But if you've got lots of plan B activities, that can really help you. Have positivity towards yourself and your students. So, just if you have a bad lesson, say, do you know what? I had a bad half hour there, but actually I don't think I'm a bad teacher. I think I can do this. I've proven before that I can do it. I didn't do this right, but I know how to do it better now. Think positively. Also think positively for students. Even if someone is a right little swear word, still be positive to them. Try and get them on side. Don't go in every day looking for a fight. If you can turn that student from a villain to a hero, you'll feel so happy. Talk to your teacher colleagues. They might have had this class before. They might know the student. They might have had situations like this before. They might have been teaching in that country for a long time, so they know the sort of character of the students, this kind of thing can help, and get some advice from them. And also being honest to yourself about any chaos that happened. What could you have done differently? What was the cause you? Because that is kind of important to know yourself. Right, so some sort of classroom management techniques. Clear routines at the start and the end of a class can really, really help. If the students come in and they're sitting down waiting for you, or they're online waiting for you, and you have this routine that you do every time, they know what to do. I remember the first time I taught like quite youngish kids, 5 or 6 years old. Someone said to me, just whatever you do in this first lesson, try and show them routines and stick to it. And I remember being quite nervous to teach these kids this young, but I walked in, and after about the second or third class, they knew exactly what to do before I'd even said it a few times. And this sort of, they were sitting there in anticipation. They knew that I was in charge, and they knew what they had to do, what was expected of them. And at the end, that can really, really help you. Simplify your instructions, especially with kids, especially with low-level adults, as much as possible. If you can visualize these instructions with gestures or using a board, using examples, that can really, really help you. Instructions are a big cause of chaos. Make sure you balance some energetic and some focused activities. Having a bit of this helps the students to burn energy and then focus all of a sudden. You know, it can help some students that need to be a bit chaotic to get over some things, or to learn even, can help them. But you're also helping the students that like to just sit down with a pen and paper and work. Get in praise as early as you can in an activity. Don't be a teacher that's always criticizing. Make sure you are a teacher that praises as much as you can. They will really, really come to that. And like your transitions between activities, sort of get them aware of over time, over 3 or 4 lessons, what's going to come next, what is sort of expected of them. So it's a bit like a routine, but making sure that, you know, once they finish something, they know that then they're going to do a speaking activity, or they're going to do some sort of writing activity. Just having this sort of thing with kids, they really, really like. Okay. And be aware of completing tasks early. Talking about the students here. So if you do a task, and this is quite difficult in mixed ability classes, especially if you've got high ones and low ones in a class. But if you've got one that's trying to finish very quickly, and they sit there, if they are someone that's, you know, then looking around thinking, okay, what can I do now? Or I'm going to throw something at Pedro or something like that. I'm going to get Miguel's attention. This can cause issues. So have things to do for these fast, quick finishers. Make sure they've got it 100% right. Just go in and just sort of say, well, that one's wrong, or I can't read that. Getting them, you know, be very aware that what can happen, because things will go wrong in classrooms, and it is okay if a lesson flops. Not every single lesson has to be perfect at all. I've taught many bad lessons in my time. Hopefully I've taught many, 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 many good ones, but bad lessons I've definitely taught. It's also okay if students lose focus. Nobody can focus 100% of the time. You know, if you won't have students focusing on you the whole time. If you get one that's constantly losing focus, it's an issue. But every now and again, they're losing a bit of focus. You know, something might have happened at school today to that class. They might all be going out for pizza afterwards. That kind of thing can't really focus them. But, you know, just be aware of what's going on. If you lose your temper, you can do it once. If you do it more than once, then you've got issues. But I think doing it once is okay. But it's got to be for a big reason. And obviously, you know, probably after like accumulation of lots of different techniques that haven't worked maybe. But losing your temper once, I think, is okay. And obviously, you don't want to make the kids cry. If they're little kids, you don't want to be shouting at them. But, you know, just even like, you know, something in your face can sort of show that you're losing temper. That can work. Right. If it does flop, reflect on it honestly. Why did it flop? Was it too difficult? Was it too easy? Were your instructions wrong? Was it boring? That sort of thing can really make a difference. Debrief with a colleague. Say to them that this happened today. Can you tell me why this happened? Why do you think this happened? Yeah. Be honest with your students. So if you're sort of giving them an activity, don't say it's boring before you've given it to them. But, you know, if they're finding it a little bit difficult, or they're finding, oh, teacher, this is so boring, you know, be honest and say, okay, do you know what? I'm sorry. What would you like? What sort of things would you like to learn about? Be honest with them can really, really help. And if you lose your temper, you have to apologize as well. Might be at the start of the next lesson, that kind of thing. Might be to someone one-on-one, but you've got to be honest with students about your sort of way as well. And start again at times, you know. If you've had a bad lesson, start again. Don't think that's it for me for teaching. I've lost this class, I'm never going to get them back. Start again. You can get them back. Right, what to do if you're dealing with a disruptive student? I can see some questions coming in. Please do get them in. I will stop rabbiting on in a second. If you've got one disruptive student, or even a couple, you've got to stay calm as much as you can, and you've got to stay neutral. What I mean neutral? Yeah, don't be too negative to them. Don't be too positive to them. You know, stay neutral. I mean, positive all the time, but not positive as much as you can, but not all the time to them. You know, they've also got to be aware that when they've had some bit of bad behavior, stay neutral to them, and, you know, can really sort of, you know, don't be the enemy to them. Don't be too positive to them. Identify the root causes of issues. So, as I said before, is it internal? Is it external? Is it cultural? What is it? And if it's one, it could be at the wrong level. This kind of thing. Find out what the issue is with him or her, because girls can be disruptive as well. You know, take some time with them. Redirect any bad behavior, as in, don't sort of maybe necessarily take it and just be like a punch bag for all their bad behavior. You know, redirect it to them by doing it privately if you need to. Don't say out loud in the whole class what the problem is, or, you know, take it back in, take it outside, speak to them like that. And also be positive to them as well if you can. Set clear boundaries with them, that their behavior is unacceptable. This is the sort of behavior I want, but make sure you're consistent with the whole class, because they will notice if they feel like they are being picked on. Reinforce the positives that they are doing as much as you can. If you're working online, be ready for technical glitches. That can cause a lot of chaos, both sides. What are you going to do? Have you got a plan for that? Have a plan for students to multitask or disappear. So, sorry, I should have a plan for students if they multitask or if they disappear. You know, I've taught classes before, online classes, where it's sort of compulsory for them, and they've appeared at the start, and then I've asked them a question 10 minutes later and they're not there. You know, could it be that they've got a technical issue? Could it be that they've just disappeared? Or could it be that they're playing Fortnite on another screen? Have a plan for students like that, because that can be a bit disruptive for you. You know, do you need to all of a sudden have them to keep their camera on all the time? Do you need them to email you when they're going to disappear? That kind of thing. Body language and gestures work a lot online. You know, showing that you are awake, showing that you are open to them, can really sort of stop to cause any chaos. Just be careful of pointing and things like that. I've done observations of online classes where the teacher points at people thinking that, okay, right, you speak, or why aren't you speaking? And they have got no idea that you're pointing at them. Use the tools, you know, use the whiteboard, use a chat, all this kind of thing can really help. Just having them staring at you the whole time can be a problem. If you've got instructions that are a little bit complicated, put them up on the screen as well. You know, click on this link, all that kind of thing. Put it up on the screen. Why not? Using names often, I think, really helps in online classrooms. Can be tricky if they haven't written them right and things like that. But, you know, getting their name up on the screen can really, really help. Just learning names, having them written down somewhere in front of you if you can't see them, can keep them involved, and actually realize it can sort of break down that distance between you and them virtually. And also be aware of teacher talking time. A lot of problem can come from you just speaking too much. Right, a couple more slides. Reward systems, helpful or harmful? So my daughter's school uses a system of reward systems. I don't overly love them, but some teachers I know swear by them and say they are fantastic. What are the pros of using them? It can make the students control each other more. So if you put them in teams and you're giving points for teams, you know, one student can say to another, look, you need to work hard or you need to be quiet because they'll take points off or will get points, that kind of thing. So it can sort of cause a little policing system in the class. It can motivate the students. Some students, you know, like to win and they want to get a prize. This kind of thing can motivate them to work a bit harder or have better behavior. It can reward good and it can punish bad behavior in quite a simple and easy way, you know, by putting a star up on the board, by giving someone a tick or by rubbing it out when you see some bad behavior can really motivate some students. Right, one of the bad things about doing it, it might not work long term. So, you know, having a reward system after about 5 or 6 weeks, they can be a bit bored by it. I think it works quite well for games. I'm not so sure it works long term over the course of a term or something like that, personally. Students might not be motivated by the prize. You know, if you've got 13-year-old kids and their prize is a sticker, is that really going to is that really going to motivate them? I do know teachers that have given out money. Never done that myself, but when it floats your boat or giving out food, something like that. Have a think about a prize that would motivate them. So I used to do a lot of reward systems with kids. I used to allow the winning team to choose a song at the end of the lesson. That seemed to motivate them quite well. It can also cause some arguments if they're trying to police themselves, and you know, if one in your team's not that bothered about it, then they can sort of say to others, "Oh, don't go away," or "Oh, teacher, he told me to go away," or "I don't care. Teacher, he doesn't care. I want him to be off my team. I want to change teams. We're losing because of him." That kind of thing could cause some arguments. So just be a bit careful with reward systems. Right. So be aware of yourself. Some final thoughts. Some people are naturally calmer than others. I have, and of course everyone has lost their temper at times. Just be aware of yourself. You know, if you feel like you're getting angry, be aware that you're getting angry and that it's not a good thing. And teachers do get angry. Preparation brings confidence that you'll be able to control things. It also brings confidence in your lessons. It also brings confidence from the students to you as well. Students know when you're unprepared, and they will take advantage of that, especially kids. And experience also brings confidence as well. At the start, you're going to be a little bit all over the place in your teaching. You're new to it. Once you've done it for a while, you will know how to deal with a horrible student. You will know how to deal with a big class. You will know how to deal with a group of Azerbaijani wrestlers that appear in your class. Your experience brings confidence, and your energy does guide the class a lot. Okay, so, you know, make sure you're aware of what you're doing in your energy. Any chaos needs to be temporary and can be done temporary. If you've got constant chaos throughout your class, it's probably you more than them. And just be very aware of that. Okay. Thank you very much. Okay. So I can see some great questions. If you do have any others, please do put them in chat. If there's anything you agree or disagree with, also please do put that in the chat as well. Susanna, hi. You said, well, I guess you've just put "if they don't stop?" ? I think I'm guessing you're sort of asking what happens if they don't stop, if the chaos continues. Is that your question? I think it probably is. So, right. I think you've got to get to the root cause. Now, if it's a whole class, it's you. Honestly, Susanna, I personally don't believe that there's such a thing as a whole really bad class. I think that it comes down to a teacher who might be inexperienced, a teacher who's maybe not had the time to plan. There's lots of external factors to the teacher as well that can cause these issues. If it's and you've got to look at yourself, basically. You know, it is your lesson contents not what they want. Yeah. If it's an individual, you've got to sit down and talk to them yourself. You've got to find out the root causes why they are having issues. You know, take them outside and have a little chat with them. Or, you know, ask them to stay after class, maybe get another teacher in to come and just sit in and just keep an eye on you, that kind of thing. Or ask another student to just sit in the corner who's they're friends with go sit with them in another corner and ask them what the issue is. Sit one-on-one with them could be a problem. So just be a bit aware of that as well. Okay. Beyond that, you can get things like parents involved if it's kids. You could get managers involved if it's adults, that kind of thing. Your manager, see if they want to go down that route. You could also get them to, maybe speak to, if their English isn't very good and your Italian, Azerbaijani, Thai, whatever it is non-existent, you get them to speak to a local member of staff and go through that, but also you've got to sort of explain that, first of all, you did try this and see what happens. Also speak to your friends, your other teachers, see if they've got any ideas. Okay. David, hi. Showing off, I can see, David. Very fair play. You've been told by a Russian student that you're a good teacher. All right, well done. Medal for David. However, I think it's because I'm consistently asking them for answers. Yes, 1,047%, David. Keeping them engaged helps. Okay. If you are talking all your time, like I have been for the last 38 minutes, that is an issue. Although I'm talking about EFL teaching, I don't do EFL teaching in this webinar. It turns into a lecture. That is bad. Keeping the students engaged, keeping the students talking to each other, working to each other, or just talking to you a lot can really, really help. It keeps them on their toes. It also sort of cuts down the time where they're talking to each other about last night's football match, or which member of One Direction they like the most. I'm sure there's been other boys bands since One Direction. Keeping them involved can really, really help. Yeah, and they want to impress you. They want to be your mate. They want to help you out, and that can get rid of the chaos. Suzanne, I'm just going to answer you a quick question there. I know you're back in again. Have you ever felt that you are a bad teacher? 100% for sure. So I've had classes, firstly, on subjects that I've not taught before. So things like legal English, and I've just stumbled my way through a term, putting out fires with the content a lot. Yeah, so I have felt like I was a bad teacher then, and I felt like the students didn't get good value for money. When I first taught a class, when I first taught my IELTS class, it wasn't very good. Second or third time, it improved every time. That kind of thing, can make you feel bad. I do, however, think that I know my strengths as well. My strengths are to keep the level, to keep friendliness going in the class, that kind of thing. That can really, really help. Okay. But yeah, natural to feel like you're a bad teacher, but you've got to pick yourself up and start again. Okay. If you feel like overall you're a bad teacher, then there's other ways to get help. You can go on practical courses. You could go on, like we do teacher observation courses here at TEFL.org, that kind of thing. We do extra modules that can help you. You could even get colleagues to come in and observe you, that kind of thing. I bet you're not as bad as you think you are, Susanna. That's what I'd say. I'm not saying that you think you're bad. Craig, yeah, volunteers. That's a good one as well. Getting a student to come in and help you volunteer to do something, that can really, especially if you get a troublemaker to be the one that hands out the papers, you get a troublemaker to be the one that collects the pens, that kind of thing can really, really sort of help to keep control as well. They feel like they've got a bit of responsibility. Good point. Should have put that one on the slide. Ank_, any specific techniques on how to control a large class, 35 students whose English is not the first language? Well, we're all about English who's not the first language. Right. I have done English classes as well to people whose first language is English, but that's a different story. Specific techniques to control a large class. I don't know if we've done webinars about large classes. And have a look on our page to see if I've done one specifically about large classes. Alan, who's running the chat, is frantically looking to see if we've done one of those. I know he is. Right. So basically, I've had classes in China where I had like 200 students. Yeah. And, you have to try and do specific communicative language teaching. Now, what do I mean by that? Basically, your principles stay the same. You put them in pairs. You get them to try and explore the language themselves. You get them speaking to each other. doing this kind of thing can really well, even if you've got massive classes, putting them in groups, changing the pairs. You keep that going, even though you've got 40 students. Okay, the more you can do, the better. Yeah, that kind of thing. You will be surprised at how much they like that and how that keeps the class going. Right. Other things to be aware of: try and get around each of the students as you can in the hour or 2 hours you're doing. Even if you've got 40, just go around and just, look at their work, give them a little tick, say well done, or, do a quick error correction, that kind of thing. If you get around all of them, that gets them to feel part of the class. It can be quite easy to hide in a 40-seater student classroom, but having a little think about this kind of thing can really, really help. Yeah. And I can see that Alan, the helpful guy that he is, has put a link in there about a webinar I did about teaching large classes. There you go. So if you're watching on YouTube, hopefully in the comments it should come up, or on our Facebook page it should also come up as well. Worth watching that one. Hank. Heather, hi. How to stop students talking native language. Right. Now, I have different opinions on this, Heather. Now, you will work for schools that say it should be English only in a classroom. I'm not, and when I started teaching, I was very sure that there was only going to be English in the classroom. But I think that it's okay to have a bit of native language, especially with low levels, especially at times with young kids or low-level kids, low-level teenagers, that kind of thing. I think that it's okay to have a little bit. If it gets you over a hurdle, if it gets you over a roadblock, I think that's fine. Now, what you need to make sure is that obviously they're not speaking their native language throughout. You've also got to make sure that if they've got a problem, that they know they can ask you. And I think going in and just sort of saying no English can cause issues. However, there are schools that will complete the rules will come from the school saying that. Right. How did I get around it? If I had students that constantly spoke in their own language, and I have had this as an issue, I make sure as soon as they speak that language, you're in there on them saying, right, ask me. Yeah. Or I'll give you 10 seconds to think about it, then ask me this. That's the technique that I try and use. Okay. I've also asked if it's a weaker person asking a stronger person something. And if you can sort of tell if they're sort of speaking about last night's television more than they're speaking about the thing that you're asking. You can sort of just tell by the way they're looking and the way they're talking to each other, or if they're not pointing, that kind of thing. If it's a weaker one asking a stronger one, you've got to get the stronger one to reply in English. You've got to say, look, thank you for your help there, but please, you need to reply to Heather in English there. That's the other thing. Right. The other technique that I've used is to go down the route of you speaking in another language when you hear their language. So if they're sitting there talking in Thai and you can't get a word in, and you've asked them a few times and you've tried a point system, you've tried a reward system and it's not working, stand there talking in a made-up language, or if you're fluent in something else, or even if you're sort of elementary level in something else, I've stood there talking in Japanese and just done the next part of the lesson in Japanese. And when they're like, what is he on about? I said, well, this is how it sounds to me. Isn't that a bit rude? That sort of thing can make a difference. Right. If it then just becomes super disruptive, and it's probably just the same sort of people doing it over and over again, you've got to sort of separate them somehow from others. You've got to take them outside. You've got to lay down the law a bit of them. And things like having classroom rules where you've got the rules up, no mobile phones, no eating, whatever your rules are, English only. If you have that up on a board, if you have that up on a wall and they're all talking about it, get them to come up and sign it like a contract. And whenever you hear a bit of Thai, you poke to this English only, and that sort of realizes that that sort of thing that isn't working. If you're doing it online, you can also have the rules up on a slide, something like that. Does that answer your question, Heather? I hope so. Look, thank you for everybody that's saying great tips. That's really nice to hear. Thank you, Danya. Elizabeth, always great to see you. Craig, so thank you everybody that has tuned in for the last 47 minutes. That was quite a long one. Quite enjoyed doing that one as well. As I said, there's been loads and loads of these webinars done on a range of topics. If you're still with us now, thank you very much. If you're not watching this live, please do put in a comment. It's always good to hear them. We also have Facebook groups that you can join in. We're on LinkedIn, we're on Facebook, we're on YouTube, we're on Instagram, I think, all that sort of thing. You know, we do read all the comments. You can also send us an email. If you go on our website, tefl.org, scroll with us. There's a scroll down, there's a contact us function. All that kind of thing can really get to us. You can send us a message through Facebook page as well. We do like to hear them. Please, you know, people do ask for likes, don't they? You know, I'm a vain person. If you did like this, please do give us a thumbs up. If you didn't like it, give us a thumbs down, but also put in the comments why you didn't like it, because that's the only way you can improve. Because as the topic of today has been, you know, it can be me as much as it can be the students watching. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a good morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are in the world. Bye-bye.